you really need to make sure more so your actions speak louder than your words. And so that's what I try to do every day.
Tulsa Talks is the podcast that is inspiring people to have everyday meaningful conversations to gain perspective and help the world.
Welcome to Tulsa Talks. We have Maverick Pitchford here today. He is a local businessman, happens to be in the insurance business. Maverick, welcome.
Thanks, man. I'm so glad to be here. Having these type of conversations are something that I always really enjoy. So,
yeah. What is the name of your company?
Bison Ridge Insurance. Yeah.
And how did you come up with that name?
Yeah, so I was in insurance before. I had a captive agency, and I knew I wanted to go independent at some point in my life. I was 22 at the time. I was like, man, I know that the way insurance works is a really good possibility, like 100% possibility that I'm not going to be involved in the day-to-day interactions at some point during the business. And so I needed to brand it in a way that wasn't Maverick Insurance or Pitchford Insurance, right? And also on a grand scheme of things, if I ever want to sell it, it's a lot easier to sell a general brand rather than like your name, right? And so I've just been praying about it, man. I was going to the altar every week and I was like, God, like help me figure this out. Like not even just about the name, but the business in general. And obviously living in Oklahoma, like you know what a bison is, you know what a buffalo is. I have seen on Instagram or TikTok or something, some reel about how buffalo kind of handle their adversity, handle storms. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but
no, I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, so they talk about in the natural kingdom, they're the only animal that's known of that chases into the storm. So like a cow or a horse, when a storm comes, they just stand there, right? They ride the storm out, they wait for it to be over. Buffalo are known to, or bison are known to, when the storm comes, they turn around and run into it because they realize that if they run through it, they're going to get there faster rather than just standing there. And so I kind of always had that in the back of my brain. You know, I thought that was a cool analogy for just life and business owners. And then I went to youth camp with our youth group at church as a sponsor. And they had a leadership conference there, like a little mini one where a guy came and spoke. And he spoke about that. Now, obviously, it was related to mission, like ministry, Bible kind of stuff. But I was like, well, you could definitely take that and apply it to business because anything that's in the Bible is applicable to any part of your life, right? And so came home and I was like, man, I like that idea. And, you know, I was praying about it and God was just like, use that name. Like, that's just what I felt. And so I think that the branding behind it that I've not done a great job of putting out there, and this will be good for me to kind of get out there, is we want our clients to understand that when it comes to insurance, it's usually not going to be a good conversation. If you're calling your insurance agent, it's usually because there's a claim or you're mad your rates have went up or whatever that is, right? And so at Bison Ridge Insurance, we attack that adversity head on. We're not going to be the type of agency that avoids your phone calls, that doesn't walk you through the claim. Like we're gonna have those tough conversations because we know on the other side we're going to get through the storm faster rather than just avoiding the topic or whatever that is. So
cool.
Yeah.
And how long have you been in business?
So this agency will be 4 years this summer, so June. Been in insurance like 6 years now. So,
what all types of insurance do you offer?
So we do personal lines only, auto, home, toys, all that kind of stuff. So anything that you think you own, anything that has a wheels. We don't do any commercial or anything like that. We will eventually, but I am not crazy passionate about commercial insurance, and I'm still at a point in my life where I can push hard and do what I need to do on the personal line side and still enjoy my job. And so I didn't open a business to hate every day going to work, right? Yeah. And so we'll eventually get into commercial, but right now we just do personal lines.
Where are you guys located?
So we're in Coweta, downtown Coweta. Yep. So actually in the old movie theater, they remodeled it and there's 3 offices upstairs and we have an office up there. So
do most people come by and visit you or most
no
phones?
Yeah. So we're really a tech-driven company, agency-wise. Very much, people who are okay texting, people who are, okay doing stuff over online. We'll take people and I always say we'll meet the client wherever they want to be met. So if they want to meet in person, we'll go meet them at the coffee shop or we'll meet them in our office. But really the way everything works nowadays, there's really no need to meet in person unless they absolutely want to. So I've been in my office 4 years now. I've been in this agency for 4 years now. And I think I've had 3 people come by my office and 2 of them were good buddies. I think they just come by to talk. So most people are completely fine with this. So
how did you land in the insurance business?
Yeah, so I did not plan on being an insurance agent, that's for sure. kind of a long story short, I was at college at OSU. My now wife, we got married, and someone had to work, so I dropped out of school and started working at a full time at that point. And she's an educator, so we moved back home for her to teach. And I started working at the Bank of Oklahoma. I realized pretty quickly that George Kaiser wasn't stepping aside and letting Maverick take over, right? Like I wasn't going to own the bank. And so I was doing a business degree. I always knew I wanted to own my own business, but I didn't know exactly what kind of avenue that would be. And once again, was just praying about it. And I have a bad tendency of God giving me opportunities and me thinking it's me creating the opportunity and not a God-driven, opportunity. But he can only slap you in the face with an opportunity so many times before you're like, okay, maybe I should look into this, or maybe I should go down that road. So this lady kept coming in my till at the bank, and she was super nice, very friendly, always was on the go, not in the office, kind of you just notice those things. You're like, oh, that person's not sitting behind a desk all day like I am at the bank. So one day I was just like, man, how do you get involved in insurance? And she's like, give me your card. I'll have my district manager reach out to you. And this was at Farmers. And I actually I was telling the story on another podcast 3 weeks ago, and I just remember this part of the story. I gave her the wrong business card. So I gave her someone else. I don't know. I just grabbed a card out of the desk, I guess, and gave it to her. I think I wrote my cell phone number on the back. And so for weeks, this number was texting me saying, hey, Robert, we'd love to talk to you, or something like that. And then never clicked. And then finally, I think he left me a voicemail or something, and he said something about insurance. And I was like, oh, this is that guy. And so I called him back, and that was holiday season of 2020. I guess that would have been 2020, going into 2020. And January 2020, I had started getting my license. By February 14th, I was fully licensed and left banking and was in insurance. And by the end of 2020, I had completed their training program and opened my own agency. So I went from I literally had no clue anything about insurance at the beginning of 2020. Didn't even know what a deductible was, if I'm being honest. By the end of 2020, I had my own agency. Had that agency for about a year and then shut it down and opened Bison Ridge. So
why?
Yeah, that's a good question. I always knew I wanted to go independent. I'm extremely grateful for Farmers because they took a 21, 22-year-old kid who had no business experience and was like, here's an opportunity, right? I don't think there was probably any other way for me to get in. But kind of inside of baseball and insurance, there's captive and independence, and captive only have the one product typically, they can only offer Farmers or State Farm or whatever that is. And that doesn't mean that's a bad product, but for me and my business and what I saw would benefit my clients, I knew I needed to have more options. And so I always knew I was going to go independent. I sat down with my wife and was like, hey, let's just try this now, because we were 20, I guess, 23 at the time or something like that, somewhere around there. And we didn't have any mortgages. We didn't have a lot of bills. So it was like, if this doesn't work, I can start over. It's not a big deal, right? We're in our early 20s. This is when you're supposed to try and fail and try again and fail again. And so I was like, man, give me 5 years. And if it doesn't work in 5 years, we'll shut it down and figure something else out. I understood that I could make a business out of it because I'd already done it on the captive side, right? But with captive, you have a little bit more backing. There's, stuff from a big company supporting you. Independent, there's no one. I'm the only guy. I'm the only Bison Ridge Insurance. I have no one supporting me. And so we decided to make that jump, and it's been amazing ever since. But not to say it's not hard. It's incredibly difficult, but I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah. I often say you can't run your personal business. Mm-hmm. You should probably think twice about going into business for hire.
Yeah, right.
And a lot of people think about or glorify small business ownership, and they say, I want to own my own small business, and they don't know what it takes.
No.
If they've not been around it.
No.
And even if you have been around it, if you've not been in it,
yeah,
it's different.
It's completely different.
That's like riding in the passenger seat of a car or watching a car go by.
Yeah.
The difference in watching a car go by and putting the keys in it and driving it yourself.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I say all the time that I think of business, especially being a self-employed, independent contractor, creating a business out of nothing, right? Bison Ridge Insurance was literally an idea in my brain, and I just pulled it out of there and started putting it together. It's very much similar to jumping off a cliff and then being like, I have instructions, I'm going to figure out how to build this plane on the way down. But I mean, I think for business owners like you and I, that's the risk that we enjoy, right? It's the fun part.
But
once I said, it's not easy by any means.
No, it's definitely a challenge, and there is high risk and sometimes not that big of a reward on the back end of it.
Yeah. Especially not like an immediate reward, right?
Right.
Especially like with insurance specifically. And I was just talking to someone about this the other day. Insurance is very scalable, but it takes a long time to get to a point where you're making good money because the commissions are really low, especially if you're in personal lines like myself. And I think that's why there's not a lot of young insurance agents, because a lot of young guys, like you're starting families, you're trying to make money, you're trying to, get that big paycheck, right? Or you're going to get into sales that has a higher commission because it's that instant gratification. And I'm just extremely grateful that God placed this seed in my life that was like, hey, you should pursue this because it really is a long-term career for me. And the greatest confirmation of that I've ever been given is every time I talk to an insurance agent who's, 20 years ahead of me, and you tell them, hey, I started at 25 or 23 or whatever. And every single one of them says, man, I wish I would have started that young. Cause you're so far ahead of cause most guys get into insurance at 35, 40. It's a second career for a lot of guys. And so that's the motivation that I need to be like, that's a little breadcrumb. I'm going down the right path. Let's keep going down this. So, and not to say that I need confirmation from other people, but when you're building a business, sometimes you feel like you're in the dark and you're like, I don't know if I'm doing anything right. Like I have a headlamp. I can only see what I'm doing right in front of me. I can't see what's outside of this. And sometimes you need someone to say, hey, just so you know, over here, I've already done it and it's a good career path to be on. But also doesn't mean that last Tuesday I was like, maybe I should just shut this whole thing down because it was an awful week, right? You still have those, but I think that whenever you have that bigger goal or it's a God-given passion of yours, then it's easy to keep pushing through those hard days. So.
Why do you say it's a passion? Why do you say that it's God-given?
I think because, well, one, I know that the legacy I want to leave for my sons. So I have 3 young sons, 3 boys under 5. And I try not to get emotional about this, but I'm so extremely passionate about showing them that if they put their mind something to it, they can do it, right? And then on the other side, why I say it's God-given is that my wife and I firmly believe that whatever you do can be your mission field. And so she's a teacher, right? And no, she can't go out and preach the gospel to people because she's in the public schools, but she can show them by the love that she gives them or by the interactions that they have, what it looks like to serve God. Yeah. And then for me, being self-employed, I have the ability to, last week I prayed with a lady on the phone, and that's not to brag, but to say that I can literally use my job as a mission field for people. And I think that's really important.
What do you find the public's reception of prayer and the gospel is here in Tulsa, Oklahoma?
Yeah, I feel like we're lucky where we live. It's pretty receptive, right? I think that if we lived maybe in some other areas, it maybe wouldn't be as receptive. I still think you would like to think you would do it still, right? If you were in an area that's not, rural, especially like me, I'm in Quita, so it's rural still. People know us, they know kind of what we're about, right? But
might be different in Quita than it is in Tulsa.
Maybe so. I don't know. I obviously have a lot of clients in Tulsa. But yeah, Quita is definitely where we play. But I would say
still receptive.
Yeah, still receptive. I've never had anyone say, at the end of my voicemail says, God bless. Those type of things. And I'm not ever going to be the type of person that shies away from that because it might turn someone away. And I'm okay with that. And that's not to offend anyone, but the same way I'm supposed to accept other people, I'm expected to be accepted. I expect them to be reciprocated that. So
you think it works that way?
I don't think it works that way, but that doesn't mean I have to. That doesn't mean I have to play by those rules, right? We're set apart to do our thing and live by a different standard. And I can't say I'm going to live by a different standard, and then when it gets difficult, be like, well, I'm not going to put family-owned, faith-driven on my logo, or I'm not going to say God bless, or I'm not going to offer to pray. Now, granted, I'm not going to force it down someone's throat either, but it's not. I'm not going to hide it, So,
yeah, I celebrate people and have found a way to love them where they are. And I think that's what you're talking about, and not be drowning them
for sure
in it
Definitely.
As well.
Definitely, I think that a lot of times people, it's not even spoken things. It's how we interact with people, right? It's the way we respond to things. It's the way we hold ourselves. At least for me, that's how I try to try to handle myself and do my business and my everyday interactions. And so more so for me, it really is living that life, right? We talk about all the time in our small groups with our youth boys, because I'm sponsored for the high school group for our church. And I tell them all the time, like, fellas, if you tell people you go to church, but then you're cussing in the hallway and you're doing all this bad stuff, like, they're going to look at those actions and be like, they're doing nothing different than me, so why would I do that? You know what I mean? And so you really need to make sure more so your actions speak louder than your words. And so that's what I try to do every day. So
nice. What is the biggest challenge that you found? You said you had not too good of a Tuesday.
Yeah. I mean, insurance in general is tough, right? Especially in the market that we're in right now. But like in general, business wise, I would say the unknowing of like that I am doing the right thing, that there's no playbook to follow, right? I mean, I'm always tweaking things in my business, and you're like, I don't know if this is the right tweak or not, right? But part of that's, I don't even know if that's the hard part, because I enjoy that. I enjoy the fact that I'm always tweaking and changing things. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I think that just having to realize that it takes time, that I can't judge my mile 4 of my race against someone's mile 20, right? That guy's been running that race a lot longer than you. His agency's going to look a lot different, or his business or his life or whatever. And I think that personally for me, that's what I struggle with the most, is because I've done a really good job of networking and becoming friends with and having mentors that are agencies owners all across the country that are so incredibly successful. But sometimes you get off those calls and you're like, God, I'm supposed to be there. I'm supposed to be doing that. But you don't look at the fact that they've been in insurance longer than I've been alive. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's hard to not compare, but that's something that I definitely struggle with. So.
Yeah, sounds like you need to relax. Give yourself a break.
Yeah, for sure.
As well as move forward.
Yeah, right.
Where do you think you would operate better? With comparing and having a bit of issue with yourself? Or would you be better if you would relax and just do the motions? Yeah,
I think you're definitely right. And I think it's really easy to say that and want to do that. But then when you are having a bad Tuesday and you have all these fires you have to put out, you're like, man, I should be so much further ahead. I should have a giant team underneath me. I should have all this stuff. And it's more so because I know it would make my life easy. And because I have big aspirations, I'm trying to just jump to that chapter or that mile of the race. And I can't do that. You have to put in that hard work.
It is amazing that what you're talking about is self-development.
Yeah.
And because I know another friend of mine, that he was in a different business, but he struggled to build a business to be, I think he said it was somewhere around $10 million or 8 or something like that, for a friend of his over in DC.
Okay.
It happens to be in the foundation stabilization business. And 4 years into the business in Oklahoma and Arkansas, he built his business out to, he sold 60% of it for $20 million.
Wow, yeah.
Put it that way.
Yeah.
So he went through this system of ability in himself and learned how to do something.
Yeah.
And then it was replicable or duplicable. And he actually opened his own business in Oklahoma City, bought a business in Arkansas, and one in Dallas.
Wow.
And in 4 or 5 years, sold 60% of it for $20 million.
That's amazing, yeah.
So I think he taught me anyway, for his industry, that he became something through a learning experience.
Yeah.
And then he was able to, and that's what we're doing here as far as Tulsa Talks and Complete Peace Movement, is learning by building the base of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what you're talking about as well. Learning, building the base of it. And when you're ready, you'll have those people on, and you'll know how to help them navigate their careers.
Definitely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a good goal. I mean, I definitely want to, part of like my mission statement that I have in my agency is I want our agency to be a career opportunity place for people who don't know. Because obviously there's other insurance agencies, let's say Quita specifically, let's talk small scale, right? But I definitely run my agency a lot differently than them. We use a lot of technology. We're very, new trend driven. And not to say that the way they're doing it is bad, but I think that there's a different way to approach business. And I think there's a lot of opportunity there for people to kind of get into an industry that's a boring business per se, but is a really, really good career to be in. And I want our agency to be that for people.
Yeah. Well, it would seem like in the tech-driven era that we live, that tech would help you be more scalable.
Yeah, definitely. I'm able to do a lot more than what I probably could if we were, 10 years ago. I use tech for all kinds of things, and it makes it to where, instead of having 2 arms, I have 6 arms working all the time, which is really important.
Yeah. Some of those AIs and different SaaS's and all of that stuff, they're like cheap help compared to what you couldn't. Yeah. Like you said, you had 6 arms instead of 2.
Yeah.
And probably for a small percentage of what you
exactly
would cost to do
for
that.
sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, from day one, we've been technology driven in a sense of like using automation and stuff and like touching leads or clients throughout the week or month or year. And if I was manually doing all that, there would be legitimately no way to do it. So
making phone calls.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Make phone calls or let the computer send information.
So we do a lot of like the pre-work with automation. Obviously monitor it and make sure everything's going well, but up to a certain point, and then it kind of gets the lead in general to a point to where it's time for me to talk to them, and then we get in and do our professional work for them. So.
And how do you serve differently than with your Bison Ridge than what you could at one of those? What'd you call it? There's independent. And
it's
then
captive,
Captive.
So captive, the easy way to think of it is like those are the big brands that right? State Farm, Farmers, the ones you see sponsoring all the sporting events.
But you have more to offer because you have a myriad of companies.
Yeah, so I have about 30 different companies. So I tell all my clients, part of every quote we send out gets a video proposal. It's me set in front of the camera. Hey, this is what your quote looks like. I pull it up on the screen. We go over it together. It's my way of sitting down at their kitchen table and explaining the insurance to them, right? And I tell them at some point in the video, I say, if you guys switch to us, you're done shopping for insurance as long as I don't make you mad and you leave, right? Because we have all the carriers you need and we can move you around. So that's one thing that we bring, but that's not really anything different than any other independent agency brings, right? I think that something we've done really good about is being a customer-first agency. I think a lot of insurance agencies are very new business focused, which is good. Like you want to grow. I want to grow my business as well. But 99% of all of the people I work with are people I know, right? People either I know personally or know my family, know my in-laws, went to school with their kid, whatever it is, especially being in Quita where, we have a lot of connections there. So I have to make sure that myself and, the people that I've working on my back office, if, when they do that or we approach it in a way that we understand that there's a person behind every policy. And I say that because more than likely I'm going to see that person in real life, right? I'm going to see them on the bread aisle at the store. And I need to make sure I'm doing the right thing by them so that when I walk by, I can shake their hand and look them in the eye and say, hey, I appreciate you doing business with us, rather than having to go down the next aisle and hoping they leave because I'm avoiding them, right? And so that's something we do, and we take a lot of pride in that. And I definitely am more focused on that maybe than I kind of lost focus of that in the last year or so. Not in a bad way, but we were growing and
ebb and flows.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely more focused on that again to a point to where it's like, I'm making sure we handle everything the correct way at all times. Because it's easy to lose sight of things, I think, sometimes. So
hard to keep your eye on all the balls.
Yeah. Especially when you got 8 in the air.
Right. Yes. I say if you can't handle many different things at the same time, which all of us can only do one thing at a time, but small business owners are definitely spinning plates and juggling balls, as I say.
Yeah.
And everything needs your attention, but you can only pay attention to one thing at a time.
Exactly, yeah.
And companies do experience those growth times where this actually needs more attention than the other for now.
Exactly.
You didn't not take care of that other.
Right.
You still took care of it to a level that it was okay, is what I just heard.
Yeah.
And you focused on something else. Now you're focusing on that more so that you can make sure that it's still being well taken care of. And then you can go back and focus on something else for a little while and let that simmer, so to say.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think all the time, especially still being as involved as I am in the day-to-day interactions of the agency, I wear multiple different hats, and I literally think about it like I'm putting on my servicing hat, or I'm putting on my sales hat, or my agency growth hat, or whatever that is. And like you said, you have to be very diligent about knowing like, hey, this is what I'm focusing on at this time, and then at that time I'll deal with that at that time. And I do that literally on my calendar, like right, a time block, and like during that time I'm only working on that one thing or that general bucket of things, right? And I've always tried to make sure I'm respecting my calendar, because if it was enough to put it on my calendar, it's enough for me to respect it in my mind. And so I firmly believe that if I don't respect my time or my calendar, the things that are on my calendar, the things that I need to do, then no one else is going to. So
yeah, if you don't respect your calendar, you're not respecting yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would agree with that completely.
How were you raised?
How was I raised? Yeah, so I was raised by a single mom. My dad was involved, but saw him on the weekends. Raised to understand the value of family and family connections. And I think that plays a lot for me, right? I grew up, if not in my grandparents' house, down the street from my grandparents' house at all times. And my grandparents very much for a long time were the connectors of the family, right? So growing up in, small town Wagner, the family was always at the house, right? And so it was like, it wasn't odd to walk in the house and see, 10 or 15 people, there just hanging out. And so I think that family values and family first is something that I've always really, really taken in and used for decisions. And now that I have a family of my own, like that's my number one thing, right? So everything I do is for my family first, right? And that's important to me, extremely important, to make sure that the main thing is the main thing, right? God's number one, family's number two, and then, business is number three for me. So
how many people do you currently have working at your...
So I'm still a one-man shop right now. So I had a couple employees that didn't work out, and so I let them go. So we've actually scaled down a little bit. But I'll be honest with you, I'm actually extremely happy that we did that, because like I said, last year was an interesting year for us in a sense that I didn't grow as much as I wanted to. And I think I had the wrong people doing the wrong things. And so we scaled back down, and I'm very back involved in every single aspect. And I felt myself getting very comfortable last year, because we got to a point, where, we were making pretty good money, and we were taking care of, things that were need to be taken care of. Not to say we're wealthy by any means, but, to a point to where it was like, hey, I'm, paying for the bills and all that stuff. And it's easy to start to coast then, especially when you have people handling things for you. And so I ripped the Band-Aid off and was like, I don't want to feel comfortable. I want to be kind of stressed and like, oh, I have all this stuff I need to do. Because that's when I operate the best, I think.
Yeah. It's funny to me that people that are driven and enjoy the sport of business and the sport of life, getting out there and almost making things happen instead of watching them happen, being proactive instead of reactive, how those people, when they get into a sedentary mode, sometimes they don't feel too good.
No, yeah. Yeah, I agree completely. That was me for sure 100% last year. I wouldn't say I was, you would have never known it from the outside. You would have interacting with me. But I definitely think I went through some, I don't know if I would say depression, but, to a point to where it was like, I kind of lost like my drive to do something, to go out and get it, to be hungry for the goals that I had. And it took a while to kind of notice that. And then once I did, I was like, okay, this is not okay. Yeah, we need to fix this. So
said you hired the wrong people.
Yeah.
Actually, you didn't say that. You said you had the wrong people.
Yeah, doing the wrong things. Yeah.
But it boils down to you hired the wrong people.
Yeah.
and you're responsible for that.
Yeah.
How do you do it differently next time?
Man, I think that having clear set expectations is really important. And I think that I'm not a teacher by nature. I'm a doer, right? So I like to just do it myself. And I think looking back, that was kind of the downfall, was I never set them up correctly. Like, it was completely my fault.
So maybe they were the right people.
But I wasn't in the place that needed to be for that, right?
Sure.
And so, yeah.
So what are you doing now?
What am I doing now
to change that?
To change that? Yeah. So I've gotten really, really deep into documentation of like what I do and knowing how I do it and why I do it. Because I think that a lot of business owners, and I shouldn't say, maybe not, maybe it's just me, but I highly doubt that, that we do things because that's just how we do them. But for an employee, their brain might not operate the same way mine does, right? And so
might not.
Yeah, exactly.
90.9% chance they do not.
Yeah, exactly. And so I need to be able to explain why we make the decisions we make. If I'm expecting them to, handle things the way I would like them to be handled or the way I expect them to be handled. And so, from a standpoint of like operations, what are our standard operating procedures? Why do we do it that way? And that doesn't mean that it has to be done that way. But for right now, that's the way we do it. And then if we need to readjust, we can. But just making sure I understand my business more. I kind of had a realization last year that, growing up, playing video games and all those things, you knew your stats, right? You knew, if you were playing Call of Duty, you knew your kill death ratio or whatever that number is, right? Especially when I was young, that was really big. Why do I not know the stats of my business? Why do I not know the reasons I do things, right? And so really trying to make sure I understand the nuts and bolts of the business and not just being a salesman of the business.
So to duplicate yourself, you have to have something written down so that people can and train full training modules, I suppose.
Yeah. We have. I built out. I call it the Bison Ridge playbook, and literally everything that I do is in there, right? So like how I handle a service request or how I handle a quote or whatever that is, right? We put it in there, we document it. We have a video in the document that they can click on and watch. And we had that before, but I wasn't as strict on like this is the way we do it. It was kind of more fly by the seat of your pants. So it's not that way now. So
not that way now because you don't have an employee.
Yeah.
And your hair's not on fire trying to put it out.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, I guess you could probably say that. I would say that that's, in my opinion, not the case because I'm being very diligent about it. It's something I'm thinking about every day. And so I learned from my mistakes of putting people on the wrong seat on the bus. And I now know that like I need to give them the tools they need to be able to succeed. So
yeah, I want to see it.
Yeah.
And you know that I am picking on you a little bit.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't care. It's fine with me.
Yeah. I know how a lot of people function.
Yeah.
And Monday quarterback is easy.
Yeah.
Until you get into the game on Sunday again.
Definitely.
And I pick on people because I want to encourage them to somehow remember, because I know who I am. Mm-hmm. I know that I'm a good Monday quarterback until I get back into the game on Sunday.
Right, yeah.
And hopefully between that past Sunday and the following Sunday, there's some improvement.
Right, exactly, yeah.
And, I might still not be as good as I want to be the next Sunday.
Right.
Again. Until I get enough reps in.
Yeah. No, I agree completely, yeah. I think you said something earlier about the game of being a business owner.
Yeah.
And like that's the thing that I really, really enjoy. I told my wife many times, you could strip this business away and I would figure out a different business to be in, because the excitement that I get of building something and tweaking and changing and, what would it do if we did this? What would it do if we did that? Is something that really, really makes me excited.
Yeah.
And so I think that the game of the business ownership, like you're talking about, is really fun. I love that.
So right now, you're basically in the quarterback position.
Yeah.
And eventually you want to be in the owner position.
Yeah.
And somewhere between there's probably a coach.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
When we built retaining walls, I told people what position they were on my football team.
Right. I love that.
I said, you're this, you're that.
Yeah.
And we gamified it.
Yeah.
And that's what helped us win, was having a good time.
That's nice. I like that.
And not only did we have a job to do, but we had a way to do it that was highly efficient and effective. And that's how we built our name, was by gamifying our business. And I'm hoping to help people gamify their life.
Yeah.
Where they can have a place to go and get some information or some direction, join us out on some of our community outings and that sort of thing as well. And it all starts by doing what you and I just are completing now.
Yeah.
Of having meaningful conversations for us to see around corners that we might not even know exist.
Right. Yeah.
So all that to say this, Maverick, thanks for coming today.
Definitely. I appreciate it, man. It's a great time. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We are here to help you discover or develop your passions, how you can use them, and why you exist. How can we help you help others better?